the end of season 15, and so we're right back where we started, which is, on a podcast with people listening to us. Mike, you've made it through the season. You were here for like at least half the episodes, maybe a little more. Appreciate you being around,
Wait, there are people listening to us? You didn't mention that earlier.
People claim to. I mean, that's I do think it's a little, I don't think they're just trying to flatter us. I think they are actually listening, but I think they're listening for Jim, because Jim tells great stories, right, Jim?
Yeah. Well, I don't believe anybody's listening. I think I could say anything I like.
Yes. Well, speaking of the saying anything we like, this one's my fault because, we've done a lot of the same kinds of stuff for many of the fall seasons. We've had the fall season gets to be a little easy to plan because we have the solo wargame survey wrap up that Mike and I do with Liz.
Yay.
We've always got at least one episode around the fall assembly. We've always got at least one around other conventions that are going on. And then usually when we get to the end, we do some sort of holiday send-off or, if I had $1 million kind of stuff. But I mean, it's usually some sort of wish fulfillment kind of episode. And I wanted to change that up, kind of like how we had to stop doing the Compass catalog episode because it was the shtick had sort of run its course.
The cease and desist order also.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up just because I wasn't sure if the lawyers were okay with us mentioning it. But the wish fulfillment episodes had started to get a little stale and needed some refreshing. So I thought, hey, let's let the audience steer this one. They can ask us all sorts of questions. So we got, guys, you saw the list of questions. It's got to be like 45, 50 questions long at least.
Yeah.
Those come from a total of like 5 people, and one of them only asked one question. Like between Dr. Witz and our good buddy Byron and like one other, like most of these questions come from 3 people. It's insane. Which fine, yay! I'm glad you guys are enthusiastic about all of this, but man, y'all ask a lot of questions. So we're going to get to as many as we can. That's the I'm not promising we're going to answer them all, but we're going to get to as many as we can. Some of these maybe we'll save them for another episode. Who knows? We'll see. There is one that is a very easy one to answer right off the bat. One person asked us, he said, okay, I became a Carolina Hurricanes fan this year. Will I see Brant at any of the games? It'd be funny for us to play a war game at a hockey game. First of all, I'm not taking any of the war games to the hockey game. Second of all, if you've sat up in the 300 level, you will know there is no space for a war game up there at all. My ass barely fits in the seats. I mean, it's bigger than it needs to be as it is, but it barely fits in those 300 level seats. But I've already made it to the one game that I figured I would probably make this year. If I make it to another 1 or 2, it'll be later in the season. So maybe, but can't promise that. I generally make it to about 1 a year live. So we'll see. So that was the easy one to answer. Now let's get to the tough stuff. Jim, did any of these jump off the list for you? Is there one in particular that you're dying to tackle on here?
Oh, I show no preference. I think we should go to the top of the list.
There's logic.
If you could take any out-of-print war game and re-release it with the deluxe treatment, high-quality components, better graphic design, etc., which game would it be and why? You may not use a solo game because those aren't war games.
It doesn't say that. Where does it say
it doesn't? That? Are you sure? I think it did.
It does not say that.
I'm looking very carefully. Yeah, I see it. I interpret that that's what that means.
And all of my answers are in solo ease.
What game would you resurrect?
Jim's reading invisible ink and Mike's answering in sign language. That's what.
Right, exactly.
So,
all right. So Jim, if you're starting at the top, I'm assuming it's because you have an answer for that.
Actually, no, I did it because it was in order. But I do have an answer. I've tried to think about my answers, but I've also tried to make this as off the top of my head as I could. The answer to this one is very easy for me. Although I will say he did not say board or computer game, so I get to give one of each. Board game, Napoleon's Last Battles. I know. Kevin Zucker has gone on and produced the lovely Library of Napoleonic Battles games, and they are magnificent, and there is one for the Waterloo campaign, and you should buy it, Napoleon's Last Game. Do it, play it, it's great. It's still not as good to me as Napoleon's Last Battles in its elegance, its simplicity, and it's just so deeply nostalgic for me. I love it to little bitty pieces. Please, I would love to see a full fleshed out big map, new counters, the whole bit. Not really much of a rules refresh because I think the rules are solid as they are, but that's what I'd like to see. On the computer side, this is even easier. Talonsoft, Age of Sail. This is for you, Hethwell. He and I have talked about this for so many years. Wargame Design Studios does such wonderful work. We had the chance to interview those guys just a couple weeks ago, and they're a lot of fun, and they are so great in their commitment to updating Dr. Tiller's games and bringing them to new audiences and making them better. Where is Age of Sail? I mean, come on. It was simple, straightforward. It was the best computer iteration of that sort of combat in real time. And it was simple. There's no rights to it. It's not like there's a copyright on the victory. Come on. Get in there and do it. Let's get a new spruced up version for the modern era. So, Napoleon's Last Battles and Age of Sail by Talonsoft, now Wargame Design Studio.
So two quick reactions to that. One, does the I know there are a couple of different sites out there where people have redone graphics from older games. Has anyone gone in and redone either the counters or maps from Napoleon's Last Battles that you're aware? I get that there's still the issue of you've got to actually produce them and like send them through a printing press or whatever you're gonna like. I get all that, but has somebody actually done the graphical update for them at all? You know?
Yes, for the counters. You know, there are for the counters. I've never seen one for the maps.
Okay. I didn't know. That's the again, like it's not like I'm going to go looking, but I was genuinely curious. As to the remake for Age of Sail, like you were on the same podcast I was. They tend to do this based on who is interested in doing something. So when you and Hethwell are ready to sign up to like do all the development work for those guys, I am sure they're happy to entertain the remake.
There you go. You're probably, but I'd be very curious to know what state the code is in, because that one it's a real time game. It's a real, you know, it's not fast. I mean, it's a slow drink of water. That's also why it's glorious. You get to sit back with your cocktail and watch your ship slowly sail until they get it. Oh, it's so great. So I don't know what shape the code is in, but they would definitely have to get to that.
The code is Fortran 77.
Yeah, exactly.
or COBOL, one of the two.
It's the same thing that's powering Voyager 1.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, it was Dr. Tiller. He might have worked on Voyager 1. So
yeah, true.
Probably not, because he would have been like, what, 7?
Well, he was a very smart man.
He was an incredibly smart dude. All right, Mike, what do you want to see get redone? Anything in particular?
Well, you know, with this question, 3 board games came to mind, but I'm going to pick one. And I think of the 3, the one that I would like to see most is Flat Top.
Well, wait a minute. That's a double blind game.
It can be.
Should be.
Yeah. I would love to see that come back.
So it just feels like you're playing solo.
I actually own 2 copies of that now, and my dream is to one day run that as a nice fancy convention game, but we'll see. But the problem is the components are falling apart, right? The box falling apart, the counters are falling apart. It's just it needs a reprint.
You don't need the box, right? I mean, that just gets it to the show for you.
Well, yeah, but you know I like boxes, and I'm going to throw out the other 2 I had that popped in my head just for fun. One was Wooden Ships and Iron Men. And the other one is 1776. And it's more, I would just like to have updated versions of those games, I guess. And as far as digital, I'm glad you mentioned digital, Jim, because the thing that popped into my mind was Age of Rifles.
Oh, there you go. That good choice.
And that game, I can sit down. It's the graphics will make your eyes bleed, but I can sit down and play that game today. I mean, I love that game. It's like you said for Age of Sails. It's simple and it works. And there's so many scenarios in it.
That's a game that I have seen said just wouldn't work these days because you can't monetize it. It gave you so much in one package.
Yeah. and the people that created scenarios for it gave you even more. I mean, it was just endless.
Yeah, oh yeah, there was if you got into that and that was your thing and your head worked that way. Mine does not. Kind of wish it did sometimes. But that you could turn that into a lifestyle system, no doubt.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. I mean, for graphics, there's any number of the early to mid 70s SPI games that I would love to have fresh graphics on and the deluxe components. My love for the Modern Battles quads is well documented, but similar games like Sinai, as one of them, Mech War 77, Red Star, White Star. It's funny. Somebody actually redid the counters and maps for Red Star, White Star and had shared them on Consem World, and they look worse, which I find mind-boggling that you've got all of this computer technology at your disposal and you managed to make something that looked worse than the original. I mean, you almost have to try to be that bad at something, you know?
Well, as I said, this came up, as did, by the way, Flat Top, when I was on Ardwolf's Lair talking about Napoleonic Kriegspiel, actually. We were talking about Kriegspiel. And we discussed the fate of the flat top box, which apparently it is a rule. If you own a box that has flat top in it, it must be exploded and flat. Yes. It doesn't have corners. But Correct. We also talked about the fact that Decision Games, with all of what it had, took Napoleon's Last Battles, just mentioned, and made it look absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was asking if some independent party had redone stuff.
Sure.
So I think there are people that do remake the counters for a lot of these out of print games. I mean, the 1776 I mentioned, there's somebody that sells updated counters for that. I know.
Yeah, isn't there a big map version of that too?
There probably is. I think I ordered those updated counters. I need to open my box and check it. But yeah, I think there is a map for that. And before we move on from this topic, one honorable mention I'm going to throw out there, and I think it might already be in the works, I don't know, but for God's sakes, would somebody reprint Battle Cry?
Well, there's a story there. There's a story there. Richard lost it. Richard Borg, the great one, who gave us the command. I call it it's the Commands and Color system, although most people call it Memoir 44. Those who remember it, he lost that to Hasbro.
Yeah.
And I think quite recently has fished it round back, and there is some talk about doing a nice updated version stuffed with scenarios. The really frustrating part about that for me is that he has a fully fleshed out with scenarios epic system for it, just like he did with Overlord and with Epic Napoleonics and Epic Ancients. So you can have big tables filled. Yeah, it's a loss. It's a missed opportunity.
That would be awesome. Yeah,
absolutely agree. Our friend Fidelis, who bums around the board a lot, he gets to play games with Richard's group from time to time.
Well, I asked him about that when he was at the Fall Assembly, and it's not as often as you'd think because Fidelis now lives up here about 90 minutes from me. He no longer lives in Florida where he's going to the same local game store that Borg does.
It still makes me hate him.
Well, okay, fair, but you know, there's less reason to perhaps.
Because he's had a chance to play the English Civil War variant. He's had a chance to play the epic Civil War variant. It's like I say, I'm sure Richard has a file drawer, if such thing still exists, a file drawer full of all these rules, modifications, systems, and scenarios, and he's trying to get people to sell them. And unfortunately, for some reason, even though it always seemed the only one that didn't sell well was Jacobite. I will say Jacobite apparently didn't sell well.
Well, the Battle War one didn't sell great either, but I think part of that was just the toy factor that you had too much to overcome there.
Yep. But his Ancients has always sold. They've sold well. It's just it's frustrating. But I really should shut my mouth because the Napoleonics Le Grand Bataille is now painfully close to being available for purchase. So my years-long journey is drawing to a close.
You know, with all your griping about it, Le Grand Battles is going to finally get published sooner than Mystery Wizard.
We had a formal celebration on Saturday Night Fights of the departure of Mystery Wizard from the P500. That was publicly celebrated.
Yes. Trumpets all around. Vuvuzelas all around.
Vuvuzelas were heard.
Yes. So we're not going to see a deluxe treatment of that. Is that what you're trying to say?
We're not going to see any treatment of it, apparently. I'm not sure that like plowing through end to end is going to be the best solution here for us to get all the way through, just because some of the early questions that are cut and pasted into this document are longer answers. Mike, is there something in here you want to tackle? Did you want to go to number 3, or did you want to skip around a little?
Let's roll a D30 and pick one. Yeah, I'll pick one. All right, let's go to the second page. towards the bottom, there's one that says, were there any positive gaming surprises, new releases, announcements, etc. for you in 2025?
I think for Jim, the fact that LeGrand Battles has made it on the boat.
I don't know what else you would expect me to say. Yeah. No, I will. My answers are very quick. Yes, that absolutely. Please, please, please. Won't be here for Christmas. That makes me sad. But the plan on the channel is to play all the top 10 Napoleonic battles on the anniversary all through the course of the year. So we're going to do that. That's exciting. To me, honestly, one thing that's been very, very exciting has been the updates to Too Fat Lardy's Chain of Command 2. There, we just got at the sharp end, which is the campaign system, and we will very soonly be getting, it's called Big Chain of Command, which I'll let you work the acronym for yourself to know what everybody calls it. But that is coming out too, and it's not my favorite World War II system. That spot belongs to Ein Ben Shatmum, but it is a tremendously fun system, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But even over that, it's not a new game, but it's one I discovered and embraced, A Fistful of Toes 3 for World War II. I've not played it for the ultra-modern, for Vietnam, which we will do, by the way, or for true modern, including Cold War Goes Hot, with some of the guys want to do. But it has been a game that I just couldn't quite get myself to play, finally committed to it, and it has been terrific fun. So yeah, 2025 was very much the year of come on chain of command stuff, come on Commands and Colors Napoleonics, and man, this A Fistful of Toes 3 is great.
It is weird that, you're talking about A Fistful of Toes for a World War II system, right? Mm-hmm. When the toe missile was introduced, several decades afterwards. So,
can I just say too, Jim, that Mum Ain't Been Shot Yet? I mean, what a title! I just love that.
Well, do you know that is actually a pun? It's one of the things that Fidelis, we've name checked him again. He and I are both part of the Ein Ben Shatmum revolution, trying to bring it to the masses. It's one of the things Richard Clark, the author, one of the geniuses behind Too Fat Lardy's, he came up with that title because of a show he watched in his childhood called It Ain't Half Hot, Mum, which was a comedy about a British artillery battalion in Burma during World War II.
That's just awesome.
And it was an old classic. I mean, the jokes are some of them are even a little sketch by contemporary, like a lot of jokes are these days.
I'm sure.
By contemporary terms. But it was a huge hit in Britain. Never made it over to America. You can see it on YouTube a little bit. But that's what it's a reference to.
That's hilarious.
That's a long way off the beaten path, right? A British artillery unit in World War II in Burma.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And that's the setting for your comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
So
another reason why British humor is light years ahead of American humor. I mean, it just is.
Yeah, it's one of those that didn't care. And one of the actors, the lead character, became quite a figure in their pop culture. But also one of the supporting actors had a very successful singing career because he had a lovely tenor voice.
Okay, then, Mike, what about you?
All right, so for this one, I went digital, and I think these were both in 2025. I'm going to say they were anyway if they weren't. The news that Mr. President was going digital and the Battles of the American Revolution Saratoga. The announcement that those two were going digital was a surprise and a very pleasant one for me. I think both of those are going to be great digitally implemented.
I'm going to say something, Brant, I want you to mark the tape.
Yeah, I know. You knew I had to get a solo thing in there.
I'm going to say something nice about a solo game.
Uh-oh.
Mark the tape. I think Mr. President is a fascinating game concept. It could only be a solo game, and it should never have been a board game. It should always have been a PC game. I have watched this game and gone, why is this not a PC game?
You may be right, and let me tell you why I think you're right. Actually, is because I jumped on it. I bought it for $55. Remember when they listed it and it was like, I think it was 55 or 60. I jumped on it because the concept sounded amazing to me. I'm like, this will be fantastic. So I got it. And I've had it since it arrived, and I haven't played it. And why haven't I played it? Because I don't have access to where we had the fall assembly and all that space we could set all these tables up to put the thing on. And so I think you're right. I think to have this on a computer is going to be awesome. I think you'd be able to play it now. I don't have to worry about taking up so much space to set this thing up and then leave it set up for the next 6 months that it's going to take to get through the first term.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's going to be great. So that was a surprise to hear that was going to be a digital game, and I'm glad they're doing it.
I'm going to go so far as to say I'm going to buy it. So that
Mike, you're better at reading and understanding.
Wait, hold on a minute.
It wouldn't take you 6 months, you know.
He's going to buy it. I'm having chest pains over here.
Yeah. So can I go ahead and insert mandatory quip about the Mr. President, that self-published indie gem of a game there?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah.
I've been making that joke for like a year and a half, and people still don't quite get it. You know, I still end up having to explain it to somebody every now and then. So, which I'm like, really? Good.
And look, it is a production and a half. I don't. There's a game, I believe it is called Hadrian's Wall. It's a board game, and the first time I saw it set up, I went, that doesn't look fun at all. That does not look like a bit of fun. It looks like you're literally you are playing a physical spreadsheet, and I don't want to do that. And I kind of felt the same way about Mr. President, but now that it's coming out in this format, I think it might work very, very well.
Isn't that what you said about Seafall also? Was it you felt like you were sort of playing a spreadsheet there?
Well, Seafall eventually winds up feeling like you are playing a highly simplified spreadsheet while sailing through It's a Small World again and again and again.
That sounds horrible.
So I paid $5 for it. I felt ripped off.
Yeah, I think so. Couple of things for me that were pleasant surprises. Positive gaming surprises. One, I do think GMT leaning into some digital stuff for some of their games is great. I think that's fantastic, and being able to incorporate some of those, I think, is pretty cool. I do think it's going to open themselves up to some newer customers, because while something like Mr. President is a bit of an aberration in that it is such an involved tabletop experience that transporting it into the computer is only going to simplify things. I don't know that there's a huge overlap necessarily between the digital GMT game players and the tabletop GMT game players. I don't know that for sure. I just know that the folks that I have talked to who have said, oh yeah, I've got that game on computer, it's great, are not ones that bought it because they loved the board game. They bought it because they wanted to play the computer game. So I do think that's pretty cool. Other positive gaming surprises, I gotta say, I was honestly surprised from Origins that we ended up with as much stuff crammed into the Wargame HQ as we did. And Mike was there to see it. I mean, we had tables humming nonstop all day long. And when you go back and look at the table, the schedule layout, we weren't as efficient with the use of the tables as we could have been in terms of cramming some additional games on tables. If I'd had other GMs come to me and say, hey, I want to add something, we could have still squeezed in another half a dozen events somewhere. But that would have meant having to set up and tear down games extra times, which we try not to do any more than we absolutely have to. But we could have added some more if we really were forced to. But even so, I mean, Mike, you saw it. We were busy. I mean, we were humming. And
adding more tables did not come into my head. No.
Yes. Well, no, not adding more tables. We could have put additional games on tables where we had some tables sitting still a little more often than we probably should, than Origins would prefer us to have, but we were trying not to have GMs tear down and set up games extra times if we could help it, particularly for some of the more involved ones. But even so, I mean, we put, over 600 player butts in seats. We had almost or right around 200 total events between the game hall and I think that was just the game hall. I don't think that even included the War College. We had a ton of crap we did this summer, and it was a surprise to me that we pulled off as much as we did. And it was honestly a bit of a surprise to me that it ran as smoothly as it did, which is probably a testament to the kids more than anything else, since they're the ones handling a lot of that ad stuff. But it was wild to me how much we were able to do there and to be able to get done. So that was surprising and gratifying and pretty cool all at once. So that was, at least from what I saw there. Jim, I'm going to throw this to you first because you'll probably get the most mileage out of it while Mike and I just sort of snicker and make fun of you for it. But this one, I believe Byron is responsible for this one. There are only 4 eras of historical wargaming. Ancients, Napoleonics, ACW, and World War II. All other eras are just minor variations of the 4. Jim, take it away.
Well, I thought you were just stating a fact. Was that a question?
I think there's a question in there somewhere. I'm not going to swear to it, but I think Byron intended for there to be a bit of a question.
I see.
This almost sounds like a landmine question.
Did you just hear the bouncing Betty click under your foot?
Number 3, bouncing Betty, blows your balls off.
I believe Byron was intending to pick a fight. I think that's what
I see. So that was not merely rhetorical. It was pugilistic, we might even say. Provocative. That's what I wanted. Provocative. If you look at my wheelhouse, miniatures gaming, that's true. You've got World War II and Napoleonics at the very top of everything we do. Every single bloody thing we do. Next bumps along ACW, and next after that, by some distance, actually, in this country, it's bigger overseas, especially in Britain, but the Ancients comes bumping up after that, and it's a poor fourth. There are many, many people who pound the table and say, what about the War of Jenkins Ear? Why not the War of Austrian Succession? There's people like me who want to do the Age of Gunpowder, who want to do and I don't mean the later period. I'm talking about the Age of the Military Revolution, the 30 Years' War, the English Civil War. There's people, and we just skipped the entirety of the Middle Ages. And are there games in those period, both board and miniatures? Of course. Are there people who play in them? Of course, but they're in the shadows of the 4 that were mentioned. Why is that? It's what people like, I suppose. I think each one of them has its own reason for being popular. In terms of if you did the historiography, the ludography of gaming, I think you would find a different history. You would find that guys like Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson were big Napoleonics players, and they were also very big World War II guys and Ancients. They were all in those. They were all in those areas. So, like I say, I'll end where I began and say I think that's just an observation, and it's a true one. We have these big 2, a third behind, and a fourth behind that. And everybody else is catching up. And that doesn't mean they're not fun. That doesn't mean that people shouldn't promote them. But I do feel sometimes, if you go to Historicon, or if you go to Adepticon, or if you go to any of the major gaming conventions, it really does seem sometimes like the guys that are into feudal Japan are pounding their heads against the wall really, really hard, going, don't you see? My period is magnificent. You should enjoy it. And they kind of go, you got any Imperial Guard in there anywhere? Just curious. And again, please don't misunderstand me. Those are all really neat things. They are interesting periods. But yeah, I mean, they're both, and others could speak better to board games. So I think what I see at a distance, it's the same. Those are what people want to play, and that's what they've chosen to play as our hobby has evolved over the past century.
At least the mini space, just a quick question, is Ancients that far ahead of medieval gaming?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say so. Particularly because of DBA.
Okay.
I think generationally, people, when Phil Barker unlocked DBA, the wisdom of DBA, it really opened up. And I was very surprised. It was, which I'm going to get it wrong. I will mistake. It was one of the big war game conventions was just a weekend ago in Britain, and the DBA tournament was huge. It's still huge. The DBA tournament at Historicon is still big. They are still absolutely there. There's nothing close to it in medieval. That is not to say there aren't great medieval rule sets. obviously DBM and DBMM, but there's also lovely games like To the Strongest, which are really, really enjoyable. There's never mind the Billhooks, which has become very popular. There are quite a few others, but it is my strong impression that it is the fourth, and it is ahead of Medieval.
No, that's fine. Again, in the mini space, like I wouldn't know. That's why I asked.
Yeah, sure.
So, Mike, what about you? Jump in here.
Did I misread this question? It sounds like Jim answered this as to what are the 4 most popular topics in wargaming, but isn't the question... Isn't he asking, like, can I pull any historical war game off my shelf and put it into one of these 4 categories and no others? They should all fit in these 4 categories.
Or a variation on the theme. And so I think, World War I all the way up through today is a variation on the World War II theme. And look, the fact that Jim is playing World War II stuff with a fistful of toes may be some evidence towards that. The fact that the, lock and load tactical and squad leader and Panzer Grenadier and the World at War / Nations at War systems have all been used for things going from World War I all the way up through modern combat. With people building different, custom scenarios for those things from end to end. That may be a valid point for the modern stuff. I happen to know that one better than the others, so I would chime in there. You could almost make the argument that Napoleonics and ACW are not that far apart, right? It's still Age of Muskets stuff.
Somewhere out there, Grognard just died.
Well, and that may be, but how many rule systems? How many rule systems work for both with minimal modification, Jim?
That particular jump, there aren't many. The more abstract ones, the biggest example being volley and bayonet, but even that. See, okay, if you're going to take Mike's point, and he may be right about this. You may be right about it. It's sort of, I picture it as a chart in my head where you're plotting the increase in crunchiness. I won't say verisimilitude because that's chimerical, but I will say the crunchiness as it goes up, the variation between periods also increases, because that's how you get your verisimilitude. That's how you get your crunch, is you pull out those things that make you say, aha, I'm not playing some weird ACW game. I'm playing Napoleonics. And the broader games, how do I say it? The more generic games, the less crunchy games, have indeed always lent themselves to modification. And you are not a miniatures wargamer unless you have spent a fair amount of time on a forum and seen someone raise their hand and say, hey, anybody ever tried this game that's clearly built for World War II, for World War I? That always happens. It always happens. Or someone will say, hey, I know you wanted to really build this game for the period between 1450 and 1550, but could I use it for the 30 Years' War? Maybe. Could I? We want to do that. It's an impulse. It's natural in us. So if the point is certain rule sets are sufficiently elastic to permit that, sure, I'll bite. I think that's probably true. It's certainly not true in the board game space, is it?
But I mean, that's where I was just rattling off. Like Panzer Grenadier runs from, they've got a World War I variation all the way up through Panzer Grenadier Modern that's got scenarios at least through 67, and you could probably stretch it beyond that. That's just as far as they've bothered to design things. Lock and Load Tactical runs from World War II all the way up to today.
Sure, and how many more rules do you get as you move? How many rule supplements do you get there?
Not much, honestly. In the modern stuff, they had the helicopters and ATGMs, and that's about it for Lock and Load Tactical. Nations at War and World at War, again, you've got an aviation component because the close air support and the tactical helicopters and the missiles. But other than that, Nations at War and World at War are pretty damn close to the same thing. Squad leader stuff has been stretched, all the way up to Korea, probably not much beyond that. But you've had OCS run, a ton of World War II, obviously, but there is an OCS Korea. You've had the Panzer Leader series with all the fan-made stuff up all the way to the 80s, at least. So, again, I'm looking mainly at the modern stuff because that's the stuff I know better. But there's a lot of flexibility in those rule systems or not flexibility, because every rule system is built a little different. There's a lot of possibility in a lot of those rule systems that, you'd have to modify some stuff for everyone. Again, at some point you get into the missile age, right? At some point, ATGMs become a factor, but there's there's a lot you can do with a solid rule set to stretch stuff from the early to mid 30s all the way up into the mid 1990s. I think sensor warfare, once you get into the 2000s, gets to be way too much of a change potentially. But, you know, and I can't speak to the naval warfare side of things because I just don't know it well enough. For air combat, unless you're talking about an era in which you have both propeller and jet, kind of a hybrid era somewhere, you're probably okay with a, you know, with an elastic rule set that can, a lot of the concepts don't change, I think is the better way to phrase all that. Once you get back in Age of Gunpowder stuff, I'm gonna have to defer to you guys. Like, y'all would know better, but
I don't think a rule set, like take a Fistful of Toes. It's a great example.
Yeah.
A Fistful of Toes has two completely different data sets.
Yeah.
One is 1950 back and the other is 1950 forward. And they tell you don't mix and match. It won't work. You know, so I think there's a different thing to say, I like this rule set, it's flexible, I can play in different periods, and to say there's only 4 eras and that there aren't other, part of it's the lack of games in those spaces.
Yeah.
You know, we look at it, we go, okay, I want take this. I have sought for a very long time a good set of 30 years war rules. I've tried quite a few, and I don't like the ones that are extant. So I keep waiting for the guys I really look up to, like Sam, to do one, and they don't. So what do? You know, you start to stretch it. That doesn't mean it means there's only so many rule sets to go.
You show up at Sam's house and you threaten him.
Well, or you could be in a chat with him and go, dude, what's the deal? And he goes, I just don't know that period very well. And I go, unacceptable answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, you know, for the point that's being made, which is that the broader concepts, I think, being applicable across across varying fields there, and not necessarily that you're looking for the one universal rule set in each of those eras, but that the primary considerations are very similar in each of those eras. Maybe there's some validity to it. I think maybe we throw this over to the audience and let them chime in and give us some feedback on what they think.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then once we get the answers, we can take the CSR awards and there'll only be 4 awards from now on.
You just get them,
dude. I'm going to nominate you to serve on the board.
Much shorter award ceremony.
I'm going to nominate you to serve on that board.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe not on the board, but on the nominating committee.
I'll get people sandwiches and stuff, but that's about as involved as I can be.
I observe on this question list that I am being goaded, so I will take the goad. I believe I'm being goaded. What does the panel think of point building games? Is there a game scale at which these work best or don't work at all? All right. Excuse me.
When I saw that, I knew Byron was trying to pick a fight with you.
Well, I stretched my neck. Give me a second. I'm setting to the side anything for which we don't have orders of battle. Fantasy and sci-fi spring to mind most immediately, although even that sometimes has an OOB.
Yeah.
If you are using a point system to help you check the balance of a scenario or to sort of get a feel for what is more powerful than what as a mechanism to test your system and to improve it, I get it. If, on the other hand, you are using it for, and by the way, if you're using it for pickup games because you just don't have enough time to do the research and build an actual scenario, okay, fine. If in any way you are engaging in tournament play, this is of the devil. Stop doing it. Leave the people who are doing it and go find people who just want to play games. This is so every system out there that is point-based is ultimately, to me, trash. To me, it encourages lazy design and a lack of scenarios. And what's really bad is it encourages tournament play, which I despise with the fire of 1,000 suns. Because it creates a meta that is toxic, destructive, and frankly, not terribly fun.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask is the whole point of the point build systems just to enable tournament play? Is that like the entire purpose behind it?
It creates this fictitious idea that any battle in history was ever balanced. The cases where battles are balanced are so few and far between as to be noticeable by the exception.
Well, and they're usually the result of somebody screwing up along the way.
Right. So it's
you find yourself in a fair fight, you messed up, you know?
Yeah. Right. Battles aren't fair. That's not how history works. And worst of all, don't engage in tournament play. Now, are there exceptions to this? Of course there are. Nothing is everything. That's a rule of life. And I've seen people that come away from tournaments blissfully happy and had a good time with their friends and they talk about it. I have, however, in far more cases, seen rules about tournaments, talked to people who run tournaments, talked to people who participated in tournaments that describe them in terms I can only describe as hateful. So point systems, if you're building a rule set, and that's what I care about, miniatures rules. If you're building a rule set, scenarios, build scenarios, let your rules work with historical scenarios. Be they an engine for historical interpretation. Do that. Walk away. No. Points are bad.
Yeah, one of these days, somebody's going to have to explain the fascination of tournament wargame play to me. I understand the card games, the trading card game dudes playing tournament stuff, but one of these days, as silly as I can find, and look, if people want to do them, like, I'll always find a way to get them involved in our event programs. If, you know, I'm happy to try and accommodate the needs of the masses, and that's okay. But I need somebody one of these days to explain to me the purpose of tournament play, as opposed to just playing games for that. And as ludicrous as I can think that board game tournament play might be, RPG tournament play to me just seems one of the most batshit crazy concepts on the planet.
I don't even know what that means. Yeah.
And I understand that, like, that's the entire reason we have AD&D, is that Gary was trying to write these overwrite the rules for the purpose of tournament play. But that just, oh God, what were you thinking? Like,
yeah.
Look, my dear friend Jason Bullman, the guy who wrote Pathfinder, before he did all that, he won the Gen Con RPGA tournament several years running. Such that they've asked him to stop competing because it was felt it was unfair. And I looked at him, and he's a dear man, and I'm very, very fond of him. But I remember looking at him going, what do you mean you won in RPG? What does that even mean? I mean, I get it. When we all get together and beat Foozle, we're all happy. Or if Tiamat is suddenly being walked around on a gilded leash, great. But what do you mean you won in RPG? What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Where did that idea come from?
You know, what is... So yeah, I agree with you completely.
So I guess that's all based around, you know, the concept of tournament play, and people want to do tournament play. And all right, cool.
Yeah, well, like, we could stop them because clearly it's popular. But I'll say this too, and I wrote about it for the website when we went to Adepticon, which everybody should go check out. It's a lot of fun. It's a great it's a great big convention. I was struck by how much effort and love people put into their armies. Beautiful, just gorgeous figures. And they spent a fortune on them, may I note. You know, one Games Workshop tank is $80. And so they're spending a fortune on the paints and the effort and the sweat. And then they're putting it on terrain that looks like a paintball shoot-'em-up warehouse thing, because they've got to be perfectly even so they work with tournament play. What is wrong with you? You see nothing wrong with this. You people don't stand back and go, I did not spend this much money. I did not invest this much effort. I did not create this beautiful army to put it on this weird Westworld movie set crap.
Yeah. I think all that comes back to, you know, tournament play trying to somehow balance things out, which to me, I go back to, okay, great, why tournament play? Now, I can see a case for, look, if you have to do tournament play, I would go back to, Jim, your whole thing of get a historical scenario and each person plays both sides, right? It's kind of like the knockout rounds in European soccer, right? You play home and home, and aggregate score wins. Mm-hmm. So play both sides of it, you know. And so this time I attack. After that scenario is done, we'll turn it around, and now I get to defend. And you know, whatever point scoring system you're putting together, aggregate score wins. Go for that, because then you're not trying to build these sterile test tube scenarios. Yeah. So, all right, Mike, what do you want to yell about next?
Well, before you leave that one, the only thing that came to mind when I saw this was Starfleet Battles, and it is a point-based system, and it is tournament play. But there you go. Okay, so what's next?
But there's also no historical scenario.
And Jim said that, right? Science fiction and fantasy. There's your exceptions, but that is a point building game that I think works. Okay, so you want me to find another question on here and ask away, it sounds like. Let's see what we got.
Okay, look, I sent these to you ahead of time, like you asked me.
Yesterday! You sent these yesterday.
It's not a 17-page book, despite Dr. Witz's best efforts of, overloading us with questions. It's not that long.
It could be. Well, here, I'll ask this one because I really didn't have a good answer for this one. And it's an interesting question, but it says, can you think of any war games that accounts for strategic decisions about managing the spread of disease within an army? And I thought that was kind of interesting because I could, the only thing I could think of that even addresses disease was, plug your ears, Jim, Don't Tread on Me, the solitaire game of the Revolutionary War, where there's actually a smallpox event. But as far as, managing decisions around that, there's really not any to do. It's just an event to deal with. So a war game that even includes something like that, I can't even think of one. So I'm curious to see if you came up with anything.
Clearly, you have never watched one of our episodes of Sam Mustafa's Longstreet.
I have not.
Because Longstreet, after Longstreet, which is a brigade level battle system, what we did is we played an entire campaign, the group, the crew. We played an entire full Civil War campaign. The Union did win, for the record, and our guy Robert emerged the overall player champion. It was great fun. I think it was something like 20 battles. But after every battle, first thing you do is you have to go in and determine which of your units are dead and which ones are merely wounded and will return. The next thing you do is you get campaign cards that have various events. But the third phase that everybody looked forward to, and people said in the chat they tuned in just to watch, was the dysentery phase.
Okay,
holy shit.
Where everybody had to account for how many of their units were lost due to dysentery. And more senior units, presumably, were better at digging latrines and avoiding fouled water, and therefore suffered less during the dysentery phase.
But how are you managing this suffering from dysentery?
Well, the best way, if that be true, and from that level, I would say very little.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing would be, it's coming.
Yeah.
You hope to get your troops more experience, so they suffer from it less. And the other thing you do know is that you build your commander is a character and has certain attributes, and you may even try, and Robert was very successful at this, I will credit him for that. He was very successful at building his character in such a way that he knew he would be able to get more recruits to replace the men who died of dysentery. And as a consequence, he was managing that outflow of manpower from disease.
Outflow. No pun intended, by the way.
Right. But that one, when I saw that question, that is what immediately leapt to mind. Dysentery phase. Absolutely.
But a game where you're actually managing decisions based around that, though, I still can't think of a game where you're actually having to plan some kind of management scheme to avoid the spread of disease.
Yeah, I can't think of any either, but I think part of that issue there is part of what you're dealing with is if you're going to put something like that in there, what are the mechanisms, what are the factors that you're trying to manipulate in the game? What are the tools you have to do so with? And that's the part where I think some of this falls apart a little bit is, what are the subsystems within the game? What are the mechanisms that I've got to do something with around this? I'm not sure I'm articulating that really well, but
no, I think you're actually making a great point. I get what Mike is saying, but remember, at the end of the day, all war games come down to die rolls and mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
So whether it be an event card, whether it be a rule at paragraph 15.25, or whether it be a dysentery phase, ultimately it's going to come down to a die roll. And unless you're making a game that is oriented towards the other one I was thinking of I ran a Kriegspiel that was stolen from somebody else, where every player was a commander in Gaul during the Roman Republic.
Okay.
And they had to make allowances when they camped for the night to make sure that there would be no disease in their encampment. They had to maintain sanitary conditions.
Yeah.
So that was there, but it's still only going to be a mechanic,
Yeah.
a mechanism,
And I guess the other thing is, do you really want to play a game where you have to manage the spread? I mean, it's like, would you want to play a war game where you've got to entertain your troops?
I'm telling you, the popularity of dysentery phase is not to be ignored. Don't do it.
Well,
Don't do it. People will come for you.
Well, no, again, so what you're saying, though, is that I get that, because that is like an event. And yeah, that's totally entertaining. But I don't want to manage that.
That is totally entertaining.
Do not want to manage these decisions. No.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what's the game effect that you're trying to create. What are the mechanisms that you have to manipulate those things?
Yeah,
and I don't have a good answer for any of them. Other than to say, I mean, it's just I'm not sure where the entertainment value comes from for the perspective of, hey, let's try and entertain people. I completely get the I completely get the utility of this on the professional front.
Yeah, that would make sense there. Yeah,
that I totally get, and if somebody wants to have that conversation, sure, but from the point of view of a hobbyist thing, what are we trying to represent, and what are the mechanisms we've got to manipulate that? And I'm not sure we've got a lot of great answer. Obviously, somebody can sit down and figure it out. Somebody probably has. It's not me. But that's just what comes to mind for me.
Season 15 of Mentioned in Dispatches is graciously supported by all of our Patreon members, but especially our regimental patrons who supported us at the top level. The Armchair Dragoons would like to thank Miles R., James M., Kevin Bertram, Catastrophe Games, Fred and his dog, Joseph Knorr, Patrick Garrity, Michael Sunborg, Stagger Wing, and Paul LaFontaine. Wargaming is our jam, and they help us spread it. You too can support the Regiment of Strategy Gaming as a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/armchairdragoons.
Look, we're over an hour of recording time now. We've got like 6 questions out of the 50 that we have here. So a couple that I think we will probably answer a little faster. There was one in here about recommendation for a shorter war game that like middle schoolers could play over lunch.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, this is Mike said it. Battle Cry.
Yeah, except that now, can you find a copy? Is your
video? Oh yeah, Battle Cry in the secondary market's cheap.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say, and Mike probably already knows the answer to this. Tank on Tank from Lock and Load. Man, you can set up and play.
Yeah, but it doesn't have it. Battle Cry's got the toy factor.
It does. Honestly, Tank on Tank, you can get the toy factor with the Axis and Allies minis from, about 10, 12 years ago, the collectible minis game they had. You can very easily adapt the Lock and Load, the Tank on Tank rules to the Axis and Allies minis, and the game shipped with hex maps. So everything you need is right there to adapt it to the toy factor. But honestly, I think the small paper footprint helps make that setup go even faster. So that would be one that I would throw out there.
Yeah.
Mike, I don't know if you've got one that would.
Well, they don't specify whether this is one person playing solitaire or if it's.
No, why would you have someone do that? That's abusive.
So, because there are many people who love solitaire playing solitaire, I would say that
to meet them. That's interesting.
There's a series of, and this is not my thing, but I'm going to recommend it. There's a series of solitaire books that are war games. And I forget who makes them. There's one
of the guys connected to Worthington does a bunch of the book games. It's one of the Wileys, but then Mike Lambo has a big series of them, and the guys from Art of Wargaming have some stuff as well. The Historic Wings series, they're basically in a book, but similar to Art of Wargaming, you've got to either cut some stuff out or make some copies of stuff to be able to fully play them. Whereas the book games, Mike Lambo's stuff, and then the book games from the Wileys, I think you can play reasonably self-contained. Mike Lambo's stuff, print and cut.
So that would be for the solo, and like I said, that I don't know why that's just not my thing. The other thing that I thought of was, the Dark City games. They're not their RPG stuff, but they're combat stuff. So those are legal size paper maps with a handful of counters, and those take no time to set up and play. And in the same theme, there's the old quads. They're a little bit larger, but there's some smaller quads, even reprints of some quads out there. Compass did Campaigns of World War II. Those are smaller. Those are quick play and easy to set up. So there's things out there that I think would work.
He was talking about middle schoolers, wasn't he?
Yeah. You don't think a middle schooler could play Campaigns of World War II?
I'm not sure I want to give a middle schooler a chit. I like blocks and toys. That's it. I get Brant's point about tank on tank, where I can give him a tank, but I want to upscale everything they're doing. I want it to be as big as I can make it. When Velker and I, my son Edward, he has a name, he's over there. When my son and I taught Quatre Bras at Origins, yes, young people can understand Commands and Colors Ancients, they can understand Commands and Colors Napoleonic, but you've got to make it big. You've got to make the pieces chunky, because what you think you can do manipulating chits is a learned behavior. You have learned that over the course of your life. It's not native. And if this is a true introduction, I'd give them bigger pieces.
Middle school, really?
Yeah.
I think middle
with chits. Yeah.
You're only talking a handful of chits, though.
I'm ready to be slapped around. Come on, get me, folks. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm crazy. But don't.
So what I will say is that
do not tell me about your kid that you taught, because my son was playing chits when he was, I think, 4. That's different.
But Mike was there at Mace back in 2022 or whatever it was at Jeff Con when he watched me teach tank on tank to a family of 4. It was mom, dad, and 2 kids, one of which I think was in middle school and one was a high schooler, and we had them up and running inside of 15 minutes, and they both finished their scenarios and then traded opponents and played a second one, and we had it all done and within the 2-hour window. That was learn, that was to teach the game, and for them to play the canned scenarios that I had, swap opponents, pick up a different scenario, and then still go.
No, I agree with you on take on take. I would definitely make the map bigger, and I'd use minis.
Yeah. I think the toy factor definitely, helps, but
yeah, it would certainly help.
How much is a 1/44th scale tank, for God's sake? I mean, come on.
Not that much. So, all right, where'd we go? I just covered my list with a different window on my computer.
Well, take the one right below it. Hey, Mike, at what age did you start playing war games?
13.
I was 12. Brant?
So, at what age did I start pushing counters around on a map, sitting on Dad's lap? Probably about age 6.
When did you play?
At what age did I start making independent decisions in some of the games? 8 or 9.
42.
Well, yeah.
Well, he still doesn't play games to this day. We know that.
I know. That's why I said that.
At what age did I make competent decisions? I'll let you know when I get there.
Yeah.
But no, sitting on Dad's lap pushing counters around started pretty young, but it wasn't a big jump from that to making independent decisions around some of the games we were playing. Now, they weren't good decisions, obviously, but I was making my own decisions around war games somewhere around 7, 8, 9 years old. It was when we were living in Fort Sill in the late 70s. Is when I actually started making independent decisions about what to purchase and buy and learn on my own. That was 10 or 11, because we were at Fort Ord at that point. So that's when that happened in the early 80s.
Yeah, so, top wargaming TikTok accounts ain't one. Why are you looking for wargaming content on TikTok, for Christ's sake?
Well, if you're trying to get the Utes looking at wargaming content on TikTok, the only one that I know that's on TikTok is Ardwolf.
You're being drowned out by the noise. You're wasting your time. Utterly wasting your time. It's hard enough to be heard in the YouTube space. Ask me how I know.
Hey, you're the number 2 or 3 Google hit for a whole bunch of those Napoleon.
I am, because I drove into my niche and threw out a tent, and I am camped, baby. We have booze in the back.
I don't even know what TikTok is. It's a top secret project that is a time travel project, the U.S. government secret project, and Tony Newman and Doug Phillips are the ones working on it. That's all I know about TikTok.
Jim didn't just pitch a tent. Jim's starting to dig trenches. Right?
I did, and I threw tarps over the trenches.
He's fortified.
Well, that led to the dysentery, which he had to manage.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I would don't go to YouTube. You can also go to Twitch. There are some really good Twitch streamers, although a lot of them are also over. But you can't get their proper content out that way, and there is so much noise. The signal to noise is terrible out there. Just don't do it.
Yeah. Well,
I like this one.
Which one?
In this gamer's opinion, initiative, who goes first, is one of the most difficult things to design for. What are some of the panel's favorite and least favorite ways of deciding initiative? When I was playing more board war games, I always loved the ones that said the person who last ate a chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
The person who had their birthday most recently. Those are fun because they get around the fact that you should chill the hell out and not worry about who goes first.
I think it was the original Munchkin. The rule was the person that wants it the most goes first.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah. Stuff like that. But if you're asking it on a serious level as to who goes first and how it is determined, easily my favorite, and it's not close, is Sam Mustafa's LaSalle 2, actually. Because in order to determine who goes first, you have to add up all the skirmish factors on your entire army on the table. Short story. LaSalle is built to probably run a division of Napoleonic troops on a side. We can't stand that. So we insist on playing with at least a couple of corps. And as a consequence, we, instead of rolling 14 or 15 dice for initiative, will often roll dice in the hundreds.
That's where the dice fountains come from.
That is the dice fountain. And Dr. Mustafa himself has seen that and gone, how many are you playing with? Why are you doing that? But so we do that only after you have counted up all the sixes you have rolled and compared it to the number of sixes rolled by your opponents. Do you know who goes first?
I think if you're going to do that, Jim, you have to turn off the automatic dice scoring and sorting, and you have to roll the dice fountain, but then pan around the table.
Yeah, that would be suffering of the first order, no doubt.
I think that's what you get for so clearly stretching what Dr. Mustafa intended.
That is my absolute favorite way of deciding initiative.
Yeah, I have. So in a couple of the things that I have designed over the years, there's been cases where, per a historical scenario, there was, an obvious side with initiative. And so you write it into the scenario. So has initiative. And that's
absolutely.
I think in some cases, like some BattleTech stuff or whatever, where you have some individual character rankings, you determine it based on, much like an RPG, right? This is the individual person's ranking, and therefore they get to act first. Or you have some modifier based on some leadership in there somewhere. But that's still taking into account an individual's influence on the battle. For some hypotheticals that I've put together where there was potential surprise attack, or the way the scenario was crafted, such and such had a natural advantage, I have used die rolls to determine initiative, but not with the same die. So somebody's rolling a D10 versus a D6, for instance. So it is a weighted initiative that it could still flip, but it's more likely going to go in a specific direction. Those are some of the things that I've done.
You want a quick one? Because there was one back here that says, okay, let's do this one. Have you seen change in component choices in recent wargame releases that you think are due to recent increases in manufacturing costs? For me, I'm going to say no. I haven't to this point. I haven't seen any changes in game components based on the shenanigans that are going on.
I love yes/no questions, right?
Yeah, this is a fast one, right? So no, that's the answer.
No, in terms of component choices, I have seen the result be increases in costs. This is one of those ones where I think that more than a lot of the other wargamers, I kind of see some more, because I pay attention to the broader hobby, not just the wargame space, where I've seen that impact a lot of other companies with the toy factor, with a heavier toy factor, especially a lot of those map and mini skirmish things with like the 4-inch, giant throwing a boulder kind of figures. I've seen things not so much change component design. It changed the components that are in the design. I think what's happened is for now, people are staying relatively true to the design and just altering the cost of the final product. What'll be interesting to see is 18 to 36 months from now, what happens, because that's when you'll start to see publication of the games that were being designed today, and were they being designed with those types of component cost constraints in mind, and will those constraints still be in place 18 to 36 months from now, and how might that impact things? So Jim, have you seen anything in the miniatures wargame rules space that
yes it's all coming down to shipping. It's what will, some places won't even ship from where they are to where another person is. People are struggling with that. I'm a PDF guy.
I was about to say, PDF digital download doesn't strike me as something that's a problem.
Right. PDF is covered. But there's a lot of people in my hobby, in my side of the hobby, that want a book. They want the book. And then even more, they've chosen not to go to TTS, certainly something I respect. And because they've not gone to TTS, they want miniatures. And getting those miniatures shipped, some places just don't ship anymore. Others have been compelled to significantly increase their prices to reflect, I believe the word used was shenanigans, and I'll go with that. So in terms of component quality, no, I've not seen shrinkflation. But I've definitely seen inconvenience, and I've definitely seen cost.
We are, how far? We're an hour and 14 as I'm saying this. We'll shave some of it down through some editing here and there, but we are starting to get a little further towards the end of this. So I want to have everybody, I want to have each of y'all grab one other question before we get to a couple of the ones that were sort of Dragoon specific, because I do want to address those, but I was kind of saving those closer to the end. So Jim, peel one more off the stack that's not one of the ones that's sort of a Dragoon specific question.
Best personal wargaming experience question: who, what, where, when, etc.
Man, that was my next one. Damn it.
And first of all, I'm not kidding when I say getting to play with the Saturday Night Fights crew with the Armchair Dragoons really has been the top of the mountain for me, because it's getting to try out all these different games, all these different rule sets, and just some of them suck. I've said so, but far more of them are great, and we have a blast, and it's everything I want out of a gaming experience. So I cannot diminish that. In person, I've spoken of it before. I regret it and don't at the same time. It was at Historicon shortly after my son was born. I had signed up to play a Shaco 2 Austerlitz game. That's why I went there. I wanted to play in that game. I played it. I loved it. I made 3 friends that I still have. And at the end of it, one of those 3 friends say, "Hey, you really like Shaco, huh?" I said, "I do." Well, in like an hour, I'm starting another Shaco game, and I got a seat. You want to play? And so I did. And after that one of the guys at that game said, "Hey, we're starting a late night game of Shaco over here. You want to play?" So I did. I wound up playing Shaco best as I could figure for 28 hours straight, with about 4 hours of sleep in between. And that's because we went midnight to some wee hour of the morning, got up in the first thing. I got insanely sick from something or other by the time I got home.
Lack of sleep.
Yeah, that could be it. But it was amazing. I'd wanted to play a big table Napoleonics with this set and with friends for many, many years, since Napoleon's had been left behind for me. And so that moment, that memory in time, which was actually at the Lancaster host, is that was, other than the time spent with the Dragoons, love y'all, that was it for me.
Mike, what about you?
So for me, it's pretty easy. It's the first Origins that I attended, and that's been some years now, I think. But that was just to be there and see that, and to sit with the Armchair Dragoons in that area and play war games was just a great time. And clearly it was, because I've been going to Origins ever since, right? So that was good. And the other one is playing Starfleet battles when I was in high school with my best friend. I mean, it'll never be that great again. That was just good times that will never be repeatable.
Isn't that amazing? Is that you have to accept, you absolutely have to accept that it'll never be that good. That is so weird. You're right. But that's weird.
Yeah. Brant?
Yeah. There's a couple that spring to mind. I got a chance to play Dawn's Early Light, the lock and load one, with Pete Bogdasarian before it was ever published. Pete and I sat down at an Origins 09 maybe, and he hand wrote out the turn track because the photocopied map he was working on didn't have it printed down the side at all. And the counters were the playtest counters they were printed counters, but they were glued together, I think, to like cereal box cardboard. I think you could like see the Raisin Bran logo poking through some of them. And it was a fascinating game because just the way things unfolded, you managed to get almost every circumstance that was designed into the game, you got a chance to experience in there somewhere. You got night attacks, so you got the penalties and you know the troubles that came with night attacks. We had a couple of different cases of particularly high or particularly low rolls for initiative, where as the player you got to change sort of you got the ability to change and set your initiative rating. We had a variety of different asset chits all get involved in the game, and so just the ability to sit down with the designer, and almost a homemade version of the game, really, but to have the true breadth of experience within the game was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that one. One of the others, Mike, I don't know if you remember the very first fall assembly when we had the big Market Garden game set up in the back, but before that had kicked off, Voss and I set up Fast Action Battles Bulge, and Voss was teaching me the fab system, and playing through that one was a lot of fun also, where we were, he's a very good teacher of the game because he walks you through the different steps the first time, but then after that, he has you narrate yourself through the steps to make sure that you're internalizing it as you get it. So it was a good learning experience because he was a good teacher, but it was a fun game experience because of the way the game unfolded also, where we had a lot of very swingy actions, not swingy because of the rules, but just the way the action unfolded. We had a lot of mad charges back and forth across the map, which made it pretty entertaining. You know, it kept you on your toes and having to adjust and shift to what was going on the whole time. So both of those are pretty high on the list. And then, at this point, anytime I get a chance to play a war game with Dad, who got me into the hobby, those are always kind of cool. So those are the ones that jump out for me.
So I'm looking for a quick one because I know we're running out of time here.
I mean, it is a podcast, so we can keep going forever, but at some point, families are going to come calling for us and wonder what happened.
And looking, yeah, that's true.
At some point, the timer on my lamp out here in the office is going to go off, which is my hint that I've been out here for too long.
We'll just go to the bottom of the first page. Let's see down there. So I think we already addressed this. We'll do it again. Which social media platform gets the most interaction for folks interested in wargaming? We have talked about this one. It's YouTube, no doubt. Jim?
Well,
Yep. It's not close.
You think so?
Yep.
Well, because
Twitter is trash and Blue Sky is a joke.
Well, but there's also a War Games group on Facebook with 15,000 people in it.
Yeah, and it's devolving. It's rapidly devolving because unfortunately, as we know, and let's give a shout. The great curator has passed away.
Yes,
the guy who really sat on top of it and made it work. He passed away a couple months ago now, 3-4 months, and
I think it was before the summer. But yeah.
And ever since then, it's been starting to get us. It's no longer curated. I post to it regularly, but it's not being driven by new content. It's not being driven by. It's lost a lot of its energy. Yes, there are still a lot of people who are still signed up for it, but it's not what it was a year ago.
Yeah, that's fair. The challenge that I have with saying that YouTube is the right place to go is that, to me, YouTube feels a lot less interactive. I get that during the live shows, you will have some interplay with the hosts in that chat function. That's something that Gary's really good at. That's something Mo is really good at. That's something that Grant over at Pushing Cardboard is really good at. But a lot of folks who have things recorded and then broadcast, Zilla, Mike, with your stuff that you do, Liz over at Beyond Solitaire, like that, a lot of that stuff is pre-recorded. And so there's not as much interaction. And I just don't think the comment sections on YouTube really bring that same level of interaction that you would get in other social media. I agree with you, Jim, that the microblogging places, Twitter's completely fallen apart. Blue Sky to me is friendlier, but has not garnered the
Blue Sky is a left-wing sewer as Twitter is a right-wing sewer. I mean, you can content yourself to think it's better, but it's not. It's not. It's just we've gone into our little cul-de-sacs and hid. That's a much broader discussion. I'm on both. I can tell you that it's amazing what we did. We took our balls and went home. It's actually quite sad.
I find it easier on Blue Sky to filter out and curate the things in which I have zero interest.
Absolutely. We are not going to have this conversation because I'm passionate about this, but I'm here to tell you it is equally as easy to do it on both. It is. Yeah, I have no problems on Twitter. I have never had a problem on Twitter. I'm not saying it isn't what it is, because it is. Yeah. But the idea that it or Blue Sky are in any way different, other than the fact that one group of people went over here and one group of people went over there, is simply won't stand scrutiny.
Can we all agree that nobody went to Threads or Mastodon?
Well, Mastodon made me sad because I had a lot of people that were so excited to go to Mastodon for some reason. When they got their accounts, they were all amped. I've been let into Mastodon. And I sometimes feel like they're wandering around somewhere in a desert looking for a handout. I don't know. Yeah, and Threads is meta. So,
But nobody's using it. Everybody's got an account and nobody uses them.
You're right. It's sad because once upon a time, long time ago, in a fondly remembered era, Twitter was a fascinating social experiment. Yeah. Which failed. So there it is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Go to YouTube. We're good. We're all good there.
I don't know how well that answered the question for folks. I will say that for YouTube, the challenge that I have because people have asked, hey, why don't you guys do more on YouTube? And to me, the biggest challenge there is I don't know what we would do from a Dragoons wide perspective that's all that significantly different than what other people aren't already doing. I don't know what we bring that's different or in any way more compelling than what other folks are already doing. And at that point, it comes down to, I just like that person better than the alternative, so that's who I'm tuning into. Like, Jim, you have carved out a distinct spot in the YouTube wargaming world in that you are streaming live games end to end, some audience interaction. That's not your primary shtick. You're also not trying to call play-by-play like it's, an NFL broadcast or something. But if folks want to watch a game, they could turn yours on and watch you guys play a game from end to end. It might be longer than the original battle, but they can do it. 1.5 speed is awesome for watching the recording. But that is something that is distinctly different when you go and you look at what all of the other folks are doing, whether it's Gary, whether it's Mo, whether it's Grant at Pushing Cardboard, whether it's Cardboard Commander, whether it's the guys from the War Room in their various places that they've split off to. Any and all of those other channels, it is essentially, hey, I've got a theme. I'm talking to my audience about a theme. I may have, a friend or a guest on there that I'm bouncing things back and forth off of, and we're going to interact with the chat. But they're all... The form is not significantly different. And at that point, you're just defaulting back to whose takes do I like better than the others, right? At that point, we are all sports talk radio hosts, and it's just a matter of whose flavor do you prefer? I don't know what the Dragoons would bring to the table that's all that significantly different than what any of those folks are already doing. So that makes it really hard to say, let's get involved in something on YouTube if we're not bringing any sort of original content to it.
I'm not sure you need something original, though. I think the point here is if most people are getting the interaction on YouTube, that you just have presence, and it's just people are aware of you because you're there. I mean, it's
but I don't think we want to be banking on my personality as any
of course not. We'd want Jim to run whatever show we have. So.
At some point, Jim's wife is going to get involved with the veto stick.
You made the comment. Do we want to be? Does the Armchair Dragoons logo want to get on more? It's on for the better part of 9 hours a week.
Yeah, I know. And look, the podcast is published through our YouTube channel. That's one of the places you can listen to it.
Yep.
So if you're stuck at your desk at work, as long as your work allows YouTube through the company firewall, you can sit there and listen to our podcast. We do lean heavily into our YouTube channel for live things like AC/DC Connections Online, when we're at the conventions and we'll do stuff live, or when we shoot video at the conventions and then we'll upload it after the fact. Any of those all happen. Like we do those things. I just, I wonder how much we would get out of some sort of live talk show, something or other. I would be concerned with what are we bringing to the table that would be compelling enough for people to come seek us out as opposed to the alternatives. Mm-hmm. So look, somebody's got a great idea. I'm happy to hear it. And honestly, if somebody came, if some of the Dragoons, if we had 2 or 3 guys say, hey, we'd be really interested in doing this show, this is the kind of thing we would want to do, fine, make the pitch. Let's see if it makes sense and, turn them loose to do it. Just because it's a Dragoons thing doesn't mean I got to be involved. Like, Jim's been running off with Saturday Night Fights for, 6 years now?
Yep.
And man, aside from some cameo appearances in the smartass comments and then occasionally getting my ass kicked by Velker, I'm not involved at all, man. You guys just do it. It's great. Like I'm out of the way. It's probably better that way. So,
well, other than that, the only other thing is, and we've talked about this before in the past too, is there's no need to change anything. Keep mentioned in dispatches, but occasionally have a live session where people
do a live.
We can have a chat, so where people come in, they can interact with us and ask questions.
Yeah,
it's a little different. It's not that much different, I guess, but it's you would get more interaction that way, and there's your YouTube presence, I guess, for a while.
Yeah, maybe that becomes something that we experiment with between Mentioned and Dispatches seasons, that we do the one-off live show here and there. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. We
just keep doing these podcasts.
Yeah, I don't know about workshopping it, in the midst of the podcast, but
yeah,
we'll make a Facebook post about it. We'll put it on Threads and let people, weigh in there.
There you go. So, all 2 of them.
Yeah,
that's right. Both of them. Damn it.
Hey, to this point, we are not on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure that's a good thing. Let's go. This is starting to lean into the couple of questions that I cut and pasted together down to the bottom of my list just so I had them all in one place. And they are 3 Dragoons specific questions. One is, what are some realistic dreams and goals for Armchair Dragoons, and what are some overly ambitious dreams and goals for Armchair Dragoons? One of them is there a library designated to preserve the content from the Dragoons in perpetuity? And then what's the succession plan long-term for Armchair Dragoons? So to tackle these in the wrong order, the second one first, is there a library designated to preserve the content? Not right now. There is not. I've got backups of the site, but right now there is not a designated library for preserving these things. It's not something I've put a ton of thought into at this point, but we probably should start having some of those conversations among the admin team and some of the core membership, because quite frankly, one of the reasons that we publish or republish some of those classic reviews and classic articles is that those are content that we created at other sites that in many cases has gone dark or is difficult to find. It's not a secret that a bunch of our writing staff, a bunch of our core audience all got to be friends back at wargamer.com in the early 2000s up through about 2010 or 11 or so. When some ownership shenanigans, there's that word again, kind of drove a wedge into the community there. But there were a bunch of us that were on the writing staff back then, and you want to talk about kind of a gold standard for online long-form written game content. That was a fantastic crew to have together. And they're all scattered to the 4 winds now, but more importantly, we're now, I think, Jim, is it 4 ownership groups removed from back then at wargamer.com, or are they up to 5 at this point?
5.
Is it 5 ownership groups difference?
Yep.
The archives are gone. Like, I had written almost 100 articles. Never mind the forum stuff that got nuked way back when. There was a ton of great content in the forums. But the articles that I had written, I was probably close to 100 or so bylines in the 5 years ish that I was writing for wargamer.com, and you can't, they're all gone from the website. You can't find any of them on the website. You can find some of them at the Wayback Machine, but I've got a whole lot of those from my original files that I had submitted to the site way back when, and those are some of the things that we've been republishing bit by bit. There's, those of us who were authors for wargamer.com at no point ever signed any paperwork that gave away our copyrights to those articles. So we've got them. We're gonna republish them to make sure that they are still available to people. But that's not the best way to try and archive what we do. So it's something we probably should start planning for, given that we're coming up on like 8 years worth of this stuff. Jim, Mike, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this one way or the other.
It's just the eternal problem of the internet.
Yeah.
Does some of this kind of...
No, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, does some of this kind of get done automatically with things like Internet Archive or those kinds of things? Like, do they take snapshots of the site and you can still access some of these things?
They do, but there are caveats to that. They rarely archive the graphics, which for a site like ours, that's significant.
That's part of the charm, yeah.
Yeah, they rarely archive the graphics. Something that we don't have an issue with, but other sites have, and especially back at the wargamer.com days, ad-driven sites will often break up an article into 2 or 3 HTML pages so that you've got to load the next page, which then puts more ads in front of you. Wargamer.com was notorious for that they would take a 1,500-word article and load it into 4 different screens. Often the Internet Archive only picks up the first of those pages. So if you've got something like the old Bill Trotter Napoleonic Wars article that ran 22 HTML pages, the first 3 of which were just, this is why we love the Napoleonic Wars. Like, the actual review didn't start until the 4th page. Like, that's completely gone. There, you get the first page and that's it. That's all you will ever find. So I think there are ways of submitting things to the Wayback Machine that say, hey, please keep all of this together. We just need to investigate it and see. I know it was a bit of a longer answer than you were probably thinking, but I think that's kind of where that's going. But Jim, I don't know if you had anything else you were going to add there.
No, I was just going to say that it's not much different than, how many old magazines do you still have laying around? It's kind of the same thing.
More than my wife is comfortable with.
Yeah.
The long-term succession plan for the Dragoons is something that we do need to address also, because I'm pretty sure my kids don't plan to be running this site when I'm dead. But I right now, that's not something we've significantly considered. There's a couple of backup tools in place or access points in place that, like, if I end up in the hospital, Mike's got access to keep the site alive and running.
Yeah, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, well, the content may slow down some because as the editorial person for the site, I'm the one that kind of drives that. But Mike has access to things that if something happened and he needed to get to it, we could. We've got some alternate designees out there to be able to keep things moving. But in terms of like who takes over the Dragoons in 15 years, I don't have that answer. So I don't know, Jim. Who is Velker going to take over your YouTube channel when you're ready to be done in 20 years?
I hope he has better plans for his future. I sincerely do.
We won't need to worry about this. AI is going to run all these things for us. Don't worry about it.
Right. We'll just be sitting in one of those floating pod things being fed protein drinks.
That's right.
You've been watching
growing.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's right.
The one that's potentially the longest of the answers, now that we're at like an hour 40 of recording time here. Realistic dreams and goals for the Dragoons and overly ambitious dreams and goals. I'll answer the second one first. I would love to get us to the point where we have at least 2 pieces of content dropping every day, which would put us, 14 to 15 per week that are coming through. And I don't want to do it by taking existing things and splitting them in half. I would want to do it by increasing our actual output with some additional people contributing. Part of the reason I would like to get there is I think there's a lot more we could be covering that we aren't, mainly because we only got so many people and they've only got so many hours in the day. So to have a bit more robust editorial team, let me rephrase, a bit more robust content team that would keep editorial a little busier, that would be awesome. But one of the other things that level of throughput would allow us to do is it would allow us to be able to submit our site to a variety of the different news aggregation sites out there, like Google News, or like some of the other places that pull news from various sources. Google News is the one that a lot of folks know because it feeds all the Android phones. But I'm not familiar enough with Apple News to know whether or not that's just like actual print media on your phone or whatever, but to be able to get into mass news as a source, I think would be really cool. We just need to increase our throughput to be able to do that. Ultimately, I would, in addition to the hobbyist coverage that we do, I would love to get us back to the quality and quantity of and quite frankly the smarts, right? The intelligence level that you got from the old Wargamer website from 03 to about 07 or so. I mean, Jim, I know you were a regular at the site back then. Mike, I think you sort of came in more toward the tail end of that era.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a really smart writing crew that was not afraid of long form content, that really dug into whatever it is was being written about, whether it was a game review, whether it was an analysis piece. And we have some of those. We'll have a couple each month, but we're not having multiples each week the way we did back then, where the long form time, taking that time to explore and really dig into the topics in a meaningful and engaging way was something that was the touchstone for that crew. I would love to get us closer to that. And that we become kind of the go-to for Jim, what's a good way to say, the erudite content without sounding snotty about it?
Well, I think you want people to regard what we do as a touchstone of that sort of long-form writing. You said it yourself. I'll just say this, and I'm not saying I know, and I would love to see posts on this. I would love to be challenged one way or the other on this, because I am not, somewhat unusually for me, I'm not asserting a position. I am very curious to know if there's still an appetite.
Yeah, so... Mike Dunn, not the one from Command and General Staff College, but the one from Gaming Trend Magazine. Mike Dunn and I seem to be the two holdouts of long-form written content among the Gamma media and events teams. We're the two guys standing there trying to we're running out of fingers to stick in the dikes, right? It's just
and look, I mean, let's be very clear here. We have said for the longest time that if you look at rules, take Warhammer 40K, we talk about it a lot. That's ultra dense lore.
Yes, it
is ultra dense rules. It is ultra dense, source books. That's what I want. Is there still an appetite? I don't know. No, we're not likely to analyze Warhammer 40K, but is there a desire for erudite, credible analysis of whatever might be the topic within wargaming? I don't know. I'd like to think so. I'm not sure, is I guess what I'm saying.
Mike, what do you think?
So, for as far as realistic dreams and goals, I'll give you a semi-realistic goal or dream, and I think that would be to take the fall assembly on the road. And we're still way too young in the fall assembly, the birthing of the fall assembly, to take it on the road now. But I think at some point I would love to see us go somewhere and hold up one of the fall assemblies in just a different area. Have to be the East Coast, I'm sure, but that would be kind of cool.
At that point, though, I mean, I think it's not the fall assembly; it's the whatever else assembly, right? It's the winter assembly that, God forbid, we're not going anywhere north, right? If we're doing a winter assembly, we're going to do it in Florida or Arizona.
chicken.
Yeah.
but maybe we schedule the Midwest assembly somewhere for, April or whatever. Like I'm just spitballing some stuff. Part of it is trying to find an appropriate hole in the calendar that we can do that. But I think a roadshow would be kind of cool. Going back to what I was saying earlier about like the YouTube piece of it, I would like to get to the point where I don't have to be the one that's there. Yeah. Right. I mean, one of the things, and you guys have both seen this, and Jim has leaned pretty hard into it a little bit. It leaned hard into it a little bit. Okay, that's totally oxymoronic, but you guys will get where I'm
working with you. It's getting late.
Yeah. The vast majority of the wargaming content channels out there are very single person driven, right? Ardwolf's Lair, Moe's Game Table, Beyond Solitaire, Pushing Cardboard, Kev's Big Board. Like Kev and I don't get along, but he's got his channel and he's got a bunch of people to watch it. Meandering Mike, Cardboard Commander. The guys at the War Room were sort of they were a three-headed monster, but all of them had their own distinct, their own distinct pieces of the stream as well. All of these different folks, whether it's Justiguard or whoever, Mike, even you with My Own Worst Enemy, like all of these folks are single person operations. Zilla, out there doing his thing. The one that's not is Legendary Tactics. There's a couple of dudes involved with Legendary Tactics, but those are all single personality focused operations. From the start, I'd always wanted the Dragoons to be a team event, right? I mean, this was not Brant's thing. This was our thing. And yeah, I'm the guy at the top of the ladder for, having editorial veto power, but that didn't mean that I had to be the one doing everything. Jim wanted to start doing the live game stuff. I'm like, hell yeah, go for it. And I have been very minimally involved in any of that, but it is still very much a Dragoons production, even though it's running through Jim's channel. Jim makes no secret out of, hey, welcome back to the Armchair Dragoons. This is Wednesday Night Warfare. You've been doing that for years. Mm-hmm. And so I want us to be able to get to the point where it doesn't have to be Brant is in the room for it to be a Dragoons thing. Obviously we as the admin team will have the discussions around whether or not we want certain people representing the Dragoons. Are we okay with this person taking the lead doing this? Are we okay putting our name on this thing? We'll have those discussions, but I am absolutely perfectly happy to have Mike, like you're talking about, take the assemblies on the road. Cool. Let me know how it goes. Send me pictures. Send me a postcard. I don't have to be there. If we get a good plan together to do it, and we've got somebody we trust to be in charge who can do things kind of the way we want them done, go have fun. Like I said, send pictures. We'll publish them. It's great. But I shouldn't have to be there to make it a Dragoons thing. So, Mike, when you talk about wanting to take the assemblies on the road, dude, let me know where you want to go. I will sit here and cheer. Have fun. I do think it would be cool to have some more of them around the country. We've had people ask us, hey, when are you guys going to bring one of those events over here? I don't know that we will ever uproot the fall assembly. This will be our anchor convention here, but that doesn't mean we can't have other assemblies. What do you think, Mike? Is that along the lines of some stuff we've discussed before, or is that?
I think so. I think the problem, when people think of Armchair Dragoons, though, I think they do think of you, and I think you're gonna have to work on divorcing yourself from that more if that's really the goal. I think, and certainly bring more people in to like the admin of this Armchair Dragoons, just to get a bigger group that we can actually delegate things like that to.
Yeah, well, and I think it's elevating other people to more significant positions of prominence. That they can speak for the Dragoons, right? And that's cool. Yeah. Look, one of the places we've talked about this a little bit is, man, we're Gamma members, but I can't go to the Expo this year. So, hey, we got any Dragoons that want to go to Gamma Expo and go cover it for us? But like, you're there as the official Dragoons rep. Suddenly, we've got a Dragoons presence that's not dependent on me having to be there. Love to find somebody. Well, look, Louisville is not that attractive a city at any point in the year, and in early March is not the greatest weather to be wandering around a downtown that's best described as gritty. And I realize I'm not doing a great sales job for trying to talk somebody into going to the Expo, but the Expo itself is a ton of fun. If we can find some people willing to do it. But you know, we need some Dragoons who are interested and engaged and willing to be more involved, and happy to have those folks throw their hat in the ring. And, you know, let's build them up to where we're hitting a certain standard that we're comfortable saying, hey, go do it. You know, Mike, your point is taken that I am the one most closely identified with the Dragoons because I'm the guy that controls a lot of the social channels, and I'm the guy that's, you know, out here screaming about us the most. But you're part of the admin team. You're one of the voices that we pull together when we've got big decisions to make. So it's not like it's, you know, just me making these calls. So, so yeah, I mean, those are some of those dreams and goals we've got. Jim, I don't know if you had anything to throw in on the realistic versus overly ambitious dreams and goals for the Dragoons.
No, I just very much want to see us continue to exist in the virtual space. It's where I am. I mean, it's where I'm going to be for the foreseeable future. And to expand virtual gaming, it's no secret that Miles from Little Wars TV has started playing with us regularly, and he has a passion for it, and he wants to see it expand. Not everybody's there. I get it. But I think we collectively led before COVID in this space. I want to see us stay there, because I think it's a great place for socialization, for friendship, and also for, in a small way, I have no pretenses. I mean, I have fewer than 2,000 subscribers. I still have 1,700 subscribers, which is pretty cool. But it is a way to grow the hobby in a different direction, I guess I would say. And I always want to see that succeed.
Yeah. No, I don't know that we're ever going to abandon the virtual spaces at all. First of all, because we're not planning on making you leave. Like,
well, thanks. Yet.
But I mean, look, we do co-sponsor Connections Online, which it's in the name, right? I mean, this is a virtual conference. The ACDCs, now that I've got some help to make it go, I think we'll stick around for the foreseeable future. We've got 2 folks helping this year, and you know, slowly let those guys take over more of the operation as we roll forward. That'd be fantastic. You know, if we start adding any additional virtual anythings, I'm totally down for it. Like, let's figure out what those things look like. Right now, you guys are doing 3 nights a week consistently, right? Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah. And then an occasional other day somewhere.
Right. If I get completely goosed up because something came out,
or you're trying to hit a particular anniversary of something, you know,
or the schedule just shuffles. But yes, your point is correct.
Yeah. So, you know, if somebody else comes along and wants to start doing a regular virtual something on a different night of the week, cool. Like, all right, great. Let's make it happen. You know, there's some cases where we might want to avoid fratricide with some friends of ours. So Monday night when Gary's doing his live show might not be the best time that we would want to put somebody out there. But if that's the only night somebody else could do and they were interested in doing it, okay, cool. Let's figure it out. Let's find the right way to do that. And let's have those people be a part of stuff. That's cool. You know, I'm down for it. If we got any Australians that want to do stuff at, 6 in the morning, our time. All right, fine. Let's figure it out. Everybody can eat breakfast and watch a live game from the Dragoons. That's cool. I'm down for it. Just, I don't want to have to feel like I have to be in all places at all times, because I've done that before. And there's a reason I don't do that anymore. Right? I get one of the things, and you guys have both seen this some, like one of the things that I said very early on is that I was going to say no a lot more here than I did in previous places. Mm-hmm. And that was just to protect my own sanity.
There you go.
We are way longer than any other podcast this season or last. I hope we've provided some meaningful answers to folks in all of this. I'm now a little concerned for what happens with the keynote talk at the ACDC now that we just talked a bunch about future plans for the Dragoons. If we're going to get battered by questions at that one. But yeah, this has been entertaining enough that I'm willing to be convinced to do an Ask Us Anything thing in the future. I'm just going to ban Byron and Dr. Witz from asking us any of the questions. So, or hell, we got enough of them left. We can just do another episode of just
I was going to say, there you go.
Yeah. Good Lord.
And we probably created many, many more for the viewers just in talking about these.
I'm
so
sure
there's that too.
That others will rise. Exactly.
Yeah, no kidding. So nobody listened to this podcast, right? Nobody listened to this. So that way, no, I'm kidding.
Both of you. Turn it off.
Cool. Mike, thank you very much for being here tonight and sticking around a little long. Well, you're retired, man. You got fuck all else to do tomorrow. But especially for being here all season and, jumping in on regular basis and being a part of all the great content we've had this season with, again, leaning a little harder into designers this season. We'll have to figure out what we're doing for the spring, ideally before the spring gets here. But, as we go into the holidays, it's been a fun season. It's been entertaining. We've been able to make a few new friends and do a couple of different things, and it's been fun. So thank you for being along for the ride.
Nope. Enjoyed it. Nope.
And Jim, thank you for, you've jumped in on a handful of these, and I appreciate you being here for all the ones you did, especially for Wargame Design Studio, since you are way more familiar with their stuff than I am. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's been a treat having you here for all the episodes you've been here for. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I felt like we've had more Jim this season, which is good. I mean, may not after tonight running 2 hours, but
yeah. My ratio may be up, but there it is.
Yeah, I think the wife is gonna weigh in here at some point.
Yeah, I should think.
But yeah, it's been a fun season. Audience, thank you for being with us. Season 16 will kick off in the spring after the ACDC, so sometime late January, early February. So we got to get past the ACDC before we do it. We'll run probably about a dozen episodes before we'll hit our summer hiatus, and then you'll be able to find us at all kinds of convention stuff over the summer. If any of this stuff has piqued your interest between our forums and comments on YouTube and Facebook and Threads and Blue Sky and Mastodon and not LinkedIn, our forums, our Discord, there's plenty of places you can get in touch with us. Send up a flare if there's something you're interested in getting involved in. Let's have a chat. The best thing you can do, though, is hop in the forums, hop in the Discord, and start having conversations with folks and just get to know the people that are already here and already engaged and see where we go from there. In the meantime, where I'm going from here is to bed, because even though I'm not working tomorrow, I've still got stuff to do ahead of the holiday.
There you go.
So yeah, thanks, folks. We will catch you next season on the next season of Mention and Dispatches. Good night, everybody.